Getting your first cybersecurity job is very challenging. In fact, it's the hardest step in your cybersecurity career journey. You will get rejected a lot. In this video, I will give you 7 reasons why you may be experiencing a lot of rejections, and I will also help you fix those reasons and maybe reduce the rejections that you get. I'm not gonna lie, even after so much experience, even I get rejected a lot. So it is hard, it is challenging. However, there are things that we can all do to improve our chances of landing maybe our first cybersecurity job or even a better cybersecurity job. Reason number 1, experience. Experience is king. Everyone wants experience. People want you to have 5, sometimes 10 years of experience to do even some basic cybersecurity roles. So what do? It's a catch-22. To get experience, you need a job, and to get a job, you need experience. So I'll tell you how you can build that experience out. The first thing that you can do is, if you're doing a degree or if you've done a degree, there is always, or sometimes there is an internship component of your degree. So make sure to take advantage of that. Try to network with employers, show them that you're interested. The other thing that you can list as experience is if you worked on substantial projects in your university. That's always a plus. If you have, for example, worked on some software development code and you've got a GitHub repository to show your work, that's another avenue. The other thing that I'm really a fan of is if you've done a certification and that certification has a lab component, you can always list the skills that you've learned as some sort of experience, because you can do that type of work. So all of these are avenues to get you experience. The other thing that I recommend is to try to get an IT job, even a help desk job. It may not be cybersecurity role, but it helps you to build out some of those skills. So if you're doing help desk, you may be resetting user passwords, you may get some exposure to Active Directory. So don't be disheartened if you just need to do some IT work before you can land your first cybersecurity role. So it's a very viable route. Work in a help desk or work in IT whilst you build out your certifications and your skills. So that can be a good first step. Reason number 2, certifications. So certifications are required for some roles by some companies. Keyword here, some. Sometimes they are listed as desirable, sometimes they can be a requirement. So for example, for some governance, risk and compliance like GRC roles, they like to see that you've done some ISACA certification like CISA or CISM. I've talked about them in my GRC video, so check it out if you haven't already. Maybe they want to see that you've done CISSP. At my level, after my experience, no one seemed to care. I've got a lot of certifications, but I don't think they really care. But if you're still new, it's good to show that you have those certifications. For some security analyst roles, if you're doing incident response, they like to see something like SANS CGIH or SANS GCFA. So these are all different cybersecurity career paths. So to get those certifications, like I said, once you get your first role, or if you're doing an IT role, always be working on some sort of certifications. Have a plan. I've listed out different career paths within cybersecurity, so pick one and start doing certifications within that path, not just to get the piece of paper, but also to learn the skills and to show that you are serious about that career path. Reason number 3, you're not applying to enough jobs. This is quite surprising, but I ask some people who come to me for advice and they say, well, we can't get our first job, and I ask, look, how many jobs have you actually applied to? And they say, look, I've applied for 2 jobs. 2 jobs, yeah? So that's crazy. What people don't understand is it is a numbers game. You need to be applying for as many roles as possible. When I was looking for a role a few years ago, all I did was to update my CV, go on, install the application. We use Seek in Australia, but in the US you may have Monster or Dice, or depends on where you live, or even just LinkedIn. Put your CV there and just right click apply to literally any job that matches the thing that you're looking for. You're bound to get something, and even if you don't get a job, at least you'll get an interview. And if you're getting nothing, maybe your CV needs some work. So whatever result you get, just know that it is a numbers game. You can't just be applying for 1 or 2 jobs and wondering why you're not getting anything. Yes, you might get lucky. You might just apply for 1 job and get that job, but that's not how it works. So that might be the reason why you're not getting a job. Reason number 4, your CV might be terrible. Look, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good your grades are in university. It doesn't matter how many certifications or experience you have. If your CV is bad, no one will even ask you to come for an interview. I've seen that. We've rejected candidates who may have been great, but the CV is just terrible. Sometimes you read the CV and you have no idea what does the CV have to do with anything that we've listed. Like, I remember advertising for a firewall engineer role and got CVs that has nothing to do with firewalls whatsoever. It even looked like a mistake. So I know I sound like a broken record when I talk about CVs, but it seems to be the issue that comes up a lot. People tell me, yep, stuff. We've reviewed the CV. Yeah, my CV great. Well, how do you know that your CV great? You can't just review it yourself. So ask someone more experienced than you to review it. Watch my video where I list 10 mistakes that people make in CVs. The other day someone asked me to review their CV and I told him, have you watched the video? He said yes, and when I looked at his CV, I found at least 5 of those mistakes that I've listed. So make sure at least you don't have those mistakes in your CV. I leave a link to that video in the description box. Reason number 5 is sometimes the role you apply to, they already have a preferred candidate. So let me explain. Sometimes they need to promote someone internally, sometimes they advertise and they get 2 people and they just prefer someone else. This happened to me, and don't take it personal. Like, I know it's upsetting. I remember I spent about a month and a half interviewing with a company in the US, so I had to do the interviews at like 11 p.m. and sometimes midnight, and I did like 4 rounds of interview. The last one was with a chief operating officer. I thought I got the job and they assured me everything's fine, and then they ghosted me. They never replied, and I saw in LinkedIn that they hired someone who worked in the same company as some other people there. So sometimes the job goes to a friend, sometimes you're good but someone else is slightly better, sometimes it's personal preference. So this is out of your hand, which goes back to my point about it being a numbers game. It's good to have different options. Yes, it's disheartening if you interview and you do well in all your interviews and they end up selecting someone else, but this happens a lot, even more so at senior roles. When you do management, it's all about personality and character, so that comes into play. Just make sure that you are the best candidate possible and hope for the best. Reason number 6, your interview skills may be bad. And what I mean by that is you might have a great CV, you've got the right degrees, you've got the right certificates, but when you're in front of someone who's doing the interview, you don't do well. I'll give you an example, and this is a hard one because usually people will not give you that feedback directly because it can be harsh, but some people don't come across as professional. When they talk, they don't use professional language. Like what I mean is you talk to candidates and they talk as if they were texting someone. Some people keep checking their phones. I've interviewed candidates who weren't dressed nicely. I'm not talking about full-on suit. I mean, I recommend you wear a suit, but even if you don't, just at least wear professional. Don't show up with a jeans and a t-shirt. Show up with your shoes clean. Look nice, smell nice. No one will tell you that you didn't look nice because it's not a nice thing to say to someone you barely know. You just tell them we chose someone else. But the truth is your interview skills may need some work. The other thing I've seen in interviews is some candidates can come across negative. For example, when you ask them how was your last employer and they start saying bad things, no one likes to hear that. Always be positive. Show that you're willing to learn. Show that you've researched the company. Show that you're passionate about the role. All of these things come into play because people want you to be a team player. They want you to get along with the rest of with the rest of the team. They don't want someone who is, just a genius programmer, for example. No, they want someone who can work as part of a team. You want someone who is pleasant to deal with. So these are important things just to keep in mind. Reason number 7, and that's the last reason I'm gonna go over, is, and probably the hardest one to fix, but sometimes there aren't enough jobs in the city where you live in. So if you live in a remote area or if you live in a very small city, sometimes there's just maybe 20 roles to go around and there are just more people with more skills than you. So just think about it. Think that maybe the role that you want, that perhaps you can't get it now, maybe after some experience you can land it, or some people I know had to relocate to get the job of their dreams. So just be mindful that sometimes I'll get people tell me I've done degrees, I've done certificates, I've done everything, I just can't seem to find a job, and then I find that they live in a remote area and they insist on working in that area, and realistically there's a very slim chance that that can happen. So these are common mistakes. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, leave in the comments below. I'm very active in the comment section. I reply to all of you. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you.